Fellas, a couple of weeks ago, we reviewed all of the artifact mods for episode Revenant Act 1. Some were very potent and others not so much. One of those artifact mods was one that we were very much hyped about, that being Kinetic Impacts. On paper, this mod sounded amazing, essentially granting any heavy grenade launcher that you use the Kinetic Tremors perk. Unfortunately, we found with the rest of the Destiny community that this artifact mod is busted, but in the worst way. This is quite possibly one of the worst artifact mods we have ever seen, with pitiful damage. It also doesn't work with a number of heavy grenade launchers, even prompting Bungie to put out a tweet in regards to the mod saying that we are investigating issues with Kinetic Impacts Artifact Mod where it's not working for all heavy grenade launchers. Damage impact is too low, and it takes too many hits to activate the effect. And this was back on October the 14th. And we still haven't gotten an update on this artifact mod. Keep in mind, fellas, this is a column 5 mod, which is normally our most potent mods. So why are we making this video? Are we just calling out this artifact mod? Yes and no. First up, we're really circling back to when we originally covered this artifact mod and how it didn't work with certain grenade launchers. However, on Twitter, Mossy Max a couple days ago actually reposted a tweet from user Crymate. Now in that tweet, they stated that you must have a primary or special grenade launcher equipped in your kinetic or energy slots in order to get kinetic impacts and concussive reload to work on specific heavy grenade launchers. Most notably, exotic GLs. Things like Anarchy, Colony, Prospector, Salvation's Grip, Parasite. You know, all the exotic GLs we were really excited about using for this season. This also applies to other rapid fire frame grenade launchers. What this means for us and our builds is that weapons like Anarchy that we were already using in a number of builds this episode did get a little bit of a bump now that it can work and now that we know how to get it to work with our kinetic tremor mods. Unfortunately though, nothing else has changed. The damage here is still very low and the amount of shots needed is also the same on our grenade launchers. Here's my issue. The fact that we have to go through this many hoops to make a simple artifact mod work is insane. Matter of fact, this is one of the buggiest seasons we have ever had. At this point, we could literally make an entire patch video of tons of patches that either didn't go through or shadow nerfs that were unintentional. Kinetic impacts is just the tip of the iceberg. Under that, we still have major issues, from weapons like X-Deers not getting its damage buff, to ignition damage being heavily nerfed, to bugs like these, where artifact mods that on paper looked amazing, especially for exotic grenade launchers, only work if you jump through a number of hoops. I know right now I'm probably coming off very ranting, but we're literally going into Act 2. It's not like we're complaining about this stuff a week after the new episode. We're a month, almost a month and a half deep into this update. Yet now we're playing two versions of Destiny. One in which we have our normal sandbox, and the other which is navigating around all these different bugs. And dude, don't even get me started on Wakegate. Now, if you don't believe me about how bad Kinetic Impacts actually is, take a look at this damage. In our initial testing of this artifact mod, we had stated that Anarchy couldn't proc this artifact mod. But again, when you work through the hoops and you're rocking a special grenade launcher alongside Anarchy, you can now get it to proc. Again, this is Anarchy with no other GL equipped. As you can see, nothing happens. But when you equip a special GL, this does allow Anarchy to proc Kinetic Impacts for a whopping 7,242 damage twice. Look at that, fellas. 14,000 extra damage. Now, despite the damage not being that good, I will say the utility here with concussive reload is pretty nice. And Anarchy actually does benefit from this the most. It can proc kinetic impacts very efficiently. It only requires 2 shots, which is what you're probably going to be doing, as that gets you the most damage over time on a target while still maintaining heavy ammo conservation. This, in comparison to our other grenade launchers, which is 5 whole shots, is much better. And that's because the damage over time from Anarchy actually will count towards the hits required. You can see it in action here, where we shoot twice, you wait a moment, and boom, the mod procs. Now, when we pair this with concussive reload, you can actually see it weakening bosses and champions when damaging them with a grenade launcher, as well as when breaking a combatant shield. Pairing this with kinetic impacts also stuns unstoppable champions. This allows Anarchy to shred unstoppables very efficiently, while also just using a fraction of your ammo. The issue is that you do have to work around this by using a special grenade launcher, which is an annoying bug, but some Grandmaster Nightfalls using 2 grenade launchers might be worth it. Now, Anarchy really is the best case scenario for this artifact mod. When we start looking at our other exotic GLs, this is where we still have problems, and of course, the ammo required to get it to work. Let's start with Salvation's Grip. In our initial testing, similar to Anarchy, we couldn't get kinetic impacts to proc when using this weapon. However, this also can be procced if you have another GL equipped. But let me just say, this one is a weird one. As you can see here at Carl, if you fire 5 uncharged shots of Salvation's Grip, this will get kinetic impacts to proc, as it would with any other heavy grenade launcher. Then when we fire the charged shots, that makes the stasis crystals, but this one's a bit more finicky. When firing the shot at the ground and you let the crystals freeze coral, this wouldn't proc kinetic impacts. However, when firing a charge shot and direct impacting coral, we were able to get the proc in only 3 shots. So the crystals do play a role in this, but it's inconsistent at best. On top of that, who in the hell is going to recommend firing 5 uncharged shots with Salvation's Grip? That's literally not the play style of this weapon. This has been by far the most inconsistent grenade launcher in our testing. Next, we have Colony. Now, this works exactly the same way. When equipping another GL, this does allow Colony to proc kinetic impacts. This requires 5 shots when direct impacting coral, but it also allows for 5 shots of the insectoid robots itself to proc this perk. Now, does this make Colony meta or game breaking? No. Yes, Colony did get a rework. It could spawn more insectoid robots on kills, but I personally am just not in a situation where I'm like, yo, I need Colony right now. It's the nastiest thing inside of PvE. Moving on though, we have Prospector. Now, Prospector is a lot better this season. Bungie gave it some reworks. It can literally clear entire rooms. And we actually stated in our first video, this one did work with kinetic impacts because funny enough, we happened to have another grenade launcher equipped at that time. We unintentionally made this perk work and didn't even know how we did it. Now, it still remains true that Prospector will trigger kinetic impacts, but you do have to have another GL equipped. However, for Prospector, it only takes about 3 shots to proc, and that's because of the cluster bombs that were added in its rework. Now, this seems to count towards the hits needed to proc kinetic impacts, but again, inconsistent. This could be hit or miss. As you can see here, we did get it to proc in 3 shots, but then we fired 3 more shots again and no proc. And that's due to the spread of the cluster bombs. No lie, due to the inconsistency of this artifact mod, to me at best, it's a column 4 mod, not a column 5 mod. And I know some of you are gonna say, Cross, you gotta use Prospector on a bigger target. But here's the thing, guys, not everybody is Greg size. And we shouldn't have to work through that many hoops to make this mod work for us. Now, moving on to legendary GLs, as stated previously, adaptive frames like Edge Transit, for example, these all work as expected, meaning you don't need another GL equipped in order to get kinetic impacts procced. Now, this does come with some exceptions. For whatever reason, Crymuni, the ritual weapon from Season of the Plunder, does not work unless another GL is equipped. Maybe it's the projectile of it being a cannonball, but for whatever reason, this one doesn't work. Now, also rapid fire grenade launchers like Chill Inhibitor and a Cosmic also seem to work fine on their own without needing an additional GL to be equipped. But I have seen Marcillion, another rapid fire GL, was not able to proc kinetic impacts without equipping another GL. So is this artifact mod worth using? Let me just say, it is a very inconsistent perk. Anarchy, I see the benefits. Legendary GLs that it does work with, it's nice. And yes, you do get the utility factor with all the other artifact mods that benefit grenade launchers. But the fact that we have to rock another grenade launcher in one of our other slots to even get this artifact mod to work is crazy. I'm really hoping that Act 2 will bring about a patch that fixes all of these things. Because man, this has been one of the buggiest seasons ever. And look, that's saying something. This is going even further than the crafting. The crafting was like an unintentional bug that happened, but was addressed fairly quickly. This is just like a ton of things that rolled out as content that did or didn't work. And now we're like playing this game of 2 sandboxes where we're like, okay, now in order to get this artifact mod, I have to rock this other GL. But wait, this exotic works with it, but this one doesn't. It's got to be direct impacts, uncharged shots. It's honestly just frustrating. When you see a column 5 mod, you're expecting some next level potency. And in my opinion, one of the most defining metrics for a given season is that artifact mod lineup. Many of us will reach back and remember old seasons based on their artifact mods, from Breach and Clear, when it first originally came to us, to Particle Deconstruction, to Classy Restoration. These were wonderful artifact mods that were seasonal defining mods. And you know what was so beautiful about them? They worked. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.